Gentlemen, chat, let's jump right into what happened yesterday that set the world ablaze. Now, Insomniac Games, look, one of my favorite studios at PlayStation Studios. I've talked about it. I've talked about Ted Price and his team. Now, we know Ted Price is eventually going to be going if he hasn't gone already. The leadership there is going to be fine. Ted is going to put somebody that he's worked with for years to take over Insomniac. And Insomniac, from a leak, we know has a pretty good roadmap. Next year is going to be Venom. I don't know how big the game is going to be. You know, it's going to be I think that it's probably going to be on the level of Miles Morales. And I think that is perfectly fine. It is the Lethal Protector storyline that they're going with, from what I understand. Wolverine apparently is launching in 2027. And obviously, 2028, we should see Spider-Man 3. At least that is what the rumor is. So again, even if it's a rumor, it is a roadmap for Insomniac Games. Now, yesterday, Insomniac Games, their social on X tweeted, and I'm going to read verbatim, folks. It's very simplistic, right? But there's a lot of depth to this conversation that we're about to have. It says simply, "Hey, how are ya?" with the peace sign. And it has a picture of Spider-Man, what appears to be on a very high building, could be the Empire State Building in New York, doing the peace sign. And it's a very popular picture because, you know, you can take your own pictures of yourself, within the game. That's what it is. It says hashtag be greater, hashtag Spider-Man PS5. So you might be asking, well, Boom, how could you equate Spider-Man 2018 is going to be coming potentially, possibly, maybe to Xbox? Well, a couple of reasons. If you look at the replies, I want to say, first of all, let's get into the engagement aspect of this tweet. 1.2 million views. This was posted yesterday, ladies and gentlemen. 16,000 likes, 845 retweets, 853 responses. Now, the 1.2 million views is unbelievable engagement. Now, I said this in the green room. I want to say it live on the air. If this could honestly be the biggest troll of 2025, right? Like, they could literally have said, well, Helldivers is, people are excited that Xbox gamers, current Xbox gamers who don't have a PC, are excited that we could see some PlayStation games come over, the same way a lot of PlayStation fans, not trolls, right, are enjoying lots of Xbox games that have come over and that have been announced to come over, right? So it's like a give and take kind of a thing. If you're on Xbox and you were hoping for Helldivers, you got it. Hopefully, people vote with their wallets and buy the game and tell Sony Studios that we want more games on Xbox. Because like me, I don't have a PC, but I have a PlayStation 5. I got everything that could possibly come over, like a Days Gone, for instance. If you see, I put out a new video. I talked about it yesterday with Fuzzy. Is Days Gone coming over? I have absolutely no idea. Does it make dollars and cents? It absolutely does make dollars and cents, considering that Ben Studios hasn't put out a new game since 2019's Days Gone. What has that studio been doing? Oh, that's right. The game that they were working on, which was an open world gas game, has been canceled. So now the studio is doing what? Are they a support studio? I don't know. But I would tell you this. I don't know. I don't have the ability to make polls yet in the chat. But I guarantee you that if I did poll the people here, including myself, I would gladly rebuy Days Gone on the Xbox. Not even thinking twice. I've platinumed Spider-Man 2018. I would buy it on Xbox and play it through I got all 1,000 achievements. Not even kidding. But rewinding it back a bit, this tweet comes out, and a lot of Xbox fans respond. And a lot of Xbox fans want Spider-Man 2018. Now, there's going to be some, comments in the chat here. There was comments in the responses. Xbox are port begging. So what? So what? Somebody wants a Spider-Man game that is an amazing game from start to finish. So what? Xbox players want that on their console. What's wrong with that? Now, before I get to the gentleman on the panel, here's why I think this whole thing could be happening. I don't know whether or not any of you are, fans of film. Well, secretly, I have always wanted to have a show dedicated to like the MCU and the DCEU, right? I could talk as much as I could talk about video games. I could easily talk about movies and film, and especially about superhero stuff. I love it. Two of my favorite content creators I listen to every day of the week is Josh from Den of Nerds. He is freaking amazing. That guy's a workhorse. And of course, Charlie from Emergency Awesome. Great YouTubers, right? And that's what they produce. I mean, they talk about other things, but for the most part, they produce content based on the MCU or the DCEU. Now, I don't know whether you guys and gals have been checking, keeping your ears to the floor. There has been a running rumor that is now starting to make its way through the trades that Sony is in such a financial bind that there are rumors that they may actually sell back the Spider-Man film rights to Disney. Is that going to happen? I don't know, but it would recharge their bank accounts, because I can guarantee you that Disney wants that part of Marvel back, because they have everything now. The only thing they don't have is Spider-Man, and Spider-Man has hundreds of characters in the roster. And if they can get Spider-Man, well, they have the whole. Then they have the everything. They have X-Men. They have all of their own MCU stuff, and they would have Spider-Man back. And it would probably cost Marvel and Disney a lot of money, but they would gladly pay it, right? So that's happening. We have to remember, ladies and gentlemen, that Sony, even though they are doing well with their console sales, you guys have to get out of this space that console sales rules everything that we're talking about. That's not the case anymore. That was the case 10, 15, 20 years ago. That's not what's happening now. And if you think that Helldivers 2 is the start and end of Sony's push to put their games on other places, you are wrong. So Sony finds themselves in a position where if Helldivers does well, and I have a strong suspicion, gentlemen, that it is going to do very well on Xbox. And if that happens, Hiroki Totoki and the money people are going to say, you know what? Let's try something else. They have Nixus for a reason. Nixus has already ported Spider-Man 2018. They've already ported Days Gone. Now, I know that there's some pushback from some people here that say, well, it's probably going to be only multiplayer stuff. You think? I think that wherever they can make money, they're going to want to make money. I mean, look at the reports that we were talking about yesterday, me and Fuzzy. In 1 month, Forza Horizon 5 sold over 2.2 million copies, which equated to $100 million for Xbox, for Microsoft. You don't think Sony wants a cut of that pie? You don't think that Spider-Man 2018, even though the game is old, would not sell like gangbusters on Xbox? Of course it would. It would sell. I don't know if it's going to sell better. I mean, I think the current number is like somewhere upwards of 30 million. Like Spider-Man 2018 sold really well. Now, granted, depending on who you ask, is it actual, brick and mortar sales, digital sales, or was it had a lot to do with the pack-ins when they were offering that Spider-Man special edition console where they destroyed the numbers for Black Friday? Where it was a $200 console. It was a Spider-Man console. I think it was a PS4 Slim, if I'm not mistaken, with Spider-Man, $200. Like, people were buying 10 at a time. And why wouldn't you? Those are great gifts. Look, again, this is speculative, honey, folks. I don't know if this is going to happen, but the only reason why it's a conversation, Crispy Bomb, is because of this Insomniac tweet. So, again, I'm all about the numbers. I'm all about trying to uncover maybe there's an ulterior motive here. So I went and looked specifically at July 14th, trying to figure out and find if there's any significant with that date with Spider-Man as a character, whether it be Marvel, whether it be the film, whether it be the game. I found nothing. I literally found absolutely nothing that would make Insomniac Games put out this post for no reason. Like, it's such an odd post. It's so just odd. Like, why talk about Spider-Man 2018 now? It doesn't make any sense unless it does, Crispy Bomb. Unless that sense is that game is coming to Xbox. I believe it is. I could be wrong, and if I'm wrong, I'd be more than happy to admit it. But I'm still waiting for a few of the trolls to DM me and say, you were right about Helldivers 2, Boom. I haven't gotten those messages yet. Crispy, take it away, kind sir. Could this actually be happening?
Well, I mean, I trade, and that's what my retrospect of the way I look at things is that, am I going to make money off a situation? I invested early in, well, I wouldn't say early when it had a downturn in NVIDIA, and I've made hundreds of dollars, if not $1,000 off of a couple shares. It's one of those things that you look at the way Sony acts, and they act like they're old school. And this is where I say, like, this is why they have turned into something else. Because if you look at all of the diversity and everything else that was there, and all of a sudden going back to, okay, we need to make money, and that's where like Hiroki Totoki and all these other people come in, that all of a sudden, like, we need to focus on the right things. There's also a rumor out there that Wolverine might be very close to day and date, at least with PC. That's interesting. What I would say is that you have to look at the landscape and say, okay, like, you have, like, everybody looks at Spider-Man as a movie IP, which Sony owns as of now. And they look at it and they say, oh, it's killing it. But then you have the under circle of IP, like a Madam Web, for example, that lost millions of dollars. Okay, like absolute worst.
Every one of those films lost millions. The only one that made money was Venom 1. That was it.
And that's where you look at it and you say, I understand everybody's like, oh, it's Spider-Man, it's going to be on Sony. Spider-Man does not own the gaming rights, people. They don't, okay? They own the movie rights. That is it, okay? They own all the IP that involves Spider-Man in the movie rights. And trust me, if they're lucky, they broke even. And this is where I say, like, that Wolverine thing, if Disney comes to the table and says, hey, you know what? You need to release this on more platforms because you're not making the money on Spider-Man in general. And we're sick and tired of it. And, they probably get a cut in some way. Like, you don't know these backdoor deals. And this is where I say, like, you look at the tea leaves. I mean, the peace sign and all this, and Helldivers and Gears, releasing on the same day. Isn't that interesting? I mean, really think about it. And this is where I in the green room, I was saying, look, think about this. Sony for once has the analytics, because to be honest, Microsoft has all the analytics they could possibly want. They own Windows, they can get all the analytics. Sony has analytics to see a Gears of War. And we're not talking the whole slate of Gears of War. We're talking the original and seeing how much it sells on their console. And then they are publishing Helldivers 2 and putting it on Xbox. So guess what? They get all those analytics as well. So what do you think the money hats are going to think about if both are doing well? Hey, how about a game from 2018, which we're in 2025, people? It's at least decently old enough to say, well, let's satisfy the overseers that are Marvel, Disney, and let's throw it on an Xbox and see what happens. Do you not think it would at least sell 2 million, which is what Forza did? This is the way I look at things. I don't look at it like, hey, like I wouldn't play that. Like, I'll try it. Like, I'll probably buy it and try it. I never played Spider-Man 2018. You know what I mean? Like, why not? But you're going to a subset of people that there's probably 2 million people that only own an Xbox and never play on PC. Well, there you go. There's your win as Sony. And I look at it, and you said it, what, $100 million at the end of the day? That ain't half bad for Sony.
In a month, brother.
You know what I mean? Like, Sony probably, like, and this is a single player IP. This is not Helldivers. Helldivers could have us for years for all we know.
Yeah.
Because, like, I'm already prepping myself. I'm playing Division. I'm playing Horde mode and Gears. Like, I'm doing all kinds of stuff. Because you know what? The microcosm that is that community, like, I see so many new Xbox players on Facebook, not even Twitter, but there's a Facebook group that is, like, you know, completely against, like, trying to kill. I'm like, dude, I went through friendly fire when I was in Division 1, man. When we played in the Dark Zone, I was walking on eggshells all day, every day. If I got a really good piece of loot or you know, a really good gun, they would be hounding me, and it would be the only people in my party that would be looking at me like, damn, how did he get that? You know what I mean? And then if they kill you and they extract it, you drop it and it's theirs. Like, that's eggshells. Like, everybody, like, you know, like, Helldivers, I'm interested in. I haven't felt this more intrigued in the game on Xbox because, like, I know the community and I know we're gonna band together, and we're not gonna, like, you know, go and try to team kill like these guys are talking about. We're just gonna go and we're gonna fight for Super Earth, and that's the end of the discussion. But that's where I say, like, if Helldivers at the $40 price point sells 3-4 million, what do you think they're gonna think about Spider-Man? Spider-Man is a beloved IP, not just in the gaming realm, but in the entire world. And that's probably why I would say, like, those reports, I've been seeing them as much as you. And I would say, like, I mean, is it worth $2 billion to Disney? It might be. They bought Fox for it, for the X-Men. Think about that. So I look at that and I say, at the end of the day, like, releasing this game for Sony to keep that IP at least somewhat, like, I'm telling you, it would be only 2018. It would just be like Gears Reloaded. Everybody's like, oh, Gears of War is all coming out. Yeah, no, the best game in my opinion is Gears 2. But still, like, if they drip feed it to them, like, they're gonna sell and they're gonna sell and they're gonna sell, you know. And I mean, Sony's probably looking at that and like, hey, those numbers for Gears Reloaded are looking pretty good, and this game is 20 years old. How about a 9-year-old game? How about that? So I'm just saying, like, it's weird that people, like, continually, like, argue for this exclusivity. It's dying right before your eyes.
Yep.
And I enjoy it because at the end of the day, I want people to play Gears of War Reloaded. I want people to feel the emotion that I did. And that's all I care about. It's that old. Like just like anybody that's played Spider-Man and probably any actual gamer is looking at it and is like, man, like, you know, like I love that game and I want other people to experience it that never have and maybe get their reaction and stuff like that. These are the little things in life that we should all appreciate. And I think the time is now. It's about the games. It's about the ecosystem. It's about who you play with and everything else. And then let everything fall the way it is. And that's really the way I look at it. I think, you know, Spider-Man is an IP that is important to a lot of people, young and old right now. And I think it would be a worthy adversary for any game that Xbox comes out with.
I mean, listen, again, this isn't a confirmed thing. It's just odd, Jamie Moran, that Insomniac Games would simply tweet about Spider-Man 2018. And the engagement is bonkers. 1.2 million views, 16,000 plus likes, a ton of shares, and nearly 850 plus replies. And a lot of the replies are people that apparently are Xbox fans that want this game on the console. Now, I don't like to name names, but the best of Philly, brother, look, I don't understand what's going on in your life that every time you're in this chat, you are bent out of shape, angry. Listen, you're entitled to your opinion, and that's fine. But brother, you need to probably sit down with somebody because the anger through your words that you're writing, I can see it. I can read it. It's just video games, dude. If PlayStation is your jam, that's okay. The PlayStation from yesteryear, brother, that is gone. You know, the goalposts continue to move with you and the PlayStation community that refuse to accept change. Listen, I'm an old bastard, and I had to accept that games that were exclusive on Xbox are now on your box. Who cares? Was I pissed off where I was leaving the brand? No. But some people did. Okay, they're entitled to do that. But bro, you are very angry, and it's just games. No one is declaring that Spider-Man is coming out tomorrow. But you know, just look at what is the history of what's been going on. First, it was MLB The Show, and the excuses from PlayStation Nation, right? You know, the PlayStation Earth Defense Force was that, well, MLB said, and that's right. MLB said, listen, you need to put this in other places, otherwise we want to take the license back. So Sony made a move. Game is now everywhere, right? Okay, awesome. What else have they done? Well, Helldivers 2 was no way that was going to happen. And it unfolded with the studio. Arrowhead literally publicly said that when you 100% pay for your game, you 100% make the decisions. You don't think that was a shot at Sony, dude? Like, I understand your exclusive have value, and you're going to stand on Hill. That's great. That is great. But you know the problem with that statement, Best of Philly? Jim Ryan told you 4 years ago that you guys weren't enough. You guys are not buying enough of their games. A perfect example of that is Astrobot. Game of the generation for some, game of the universe. And guess what? It got outsold by a 4-year-old racer called Forza Horizon 5. Think about that for a second, dude. If exclusives matter that much, how come only 2 million plus copies sold of Helldivers 2? The other 12 million are on PC. If exclusives matter that much, there is no answer for it because PlayStation gamers are casuals. You're not a casual, you're hardcore. You equate to about 8% of the loudest populace. I'm hardcore, right? There are a lot of hardcores in here that really took it on the chin when Xbox started porting stuff over, but it's life. And guess what? Sony is going to do the same thing because they like money. They're a corporation. And guess what? The other thing that didn't happen with Xbox that has happened with Sony, Sony has lost, I would say, in the last couple of years, potentially over $1 billion. If you see all the cancellations of games that were being made, 10 gas games canceled. You don't think that's millions upon millions upon millions of dollars? Listen, I'm sorry. I know music. I shouldn't be feeding the trolls, but you know what? I had to say it. You know, this whole thing about Sony's immune to the future, Sony's immune to reality. That ship has sailed, man. It really has. The elusive gamer, Jamie Moran. Let's get back on track here, folks. I apologize. I don't normally go on tangents, but yeah, it's sometimes you got to call people to the carpet, and things make sense, and when they don't make sense, I'm gonna respond. I'm sorry, it's a little ridiculous. But Jamie Moran, again, we talked about this in the green room. We talked about this in our private DM. The whole Insomniac tweet is odd, right? The date of July 14th, 2025 does not equate to anything of Spider-Man. And I went looking for that date. Nothing came up. The release date, Spider-Man, a special edition of something. It's just odd that Insomniac would come out of complete left field, tweet about a game that is officially going to be at the end of the year 7 years old, right? Or 8 years old. I'm sorry, because it came out in 20. Let's see, Spider-Man 2018. So yeah, it'd be 7 years old at the end of the year. Why tweet about a game that's 7 years old unless that game could possibly be coming to Xbox? Again, it's subjective, sure. Is it guaranteed? No one's suggesting that at all. But I want to get your thoughts on this because Helldivers just was announced, and from what I understand, when I said that was going to happen, speaking to some people, I was called a lunatic. People did videos on me. People did podcasts on what me and C Money talked about. I'm not that important, folks. Trust me when I tell you, I'm really not. But what are your thoughts?
I saw that tweet and I didn't really think much of it until I started looking at the replies, and people were having fun. I think it's a weird situation because you have one group of people online. They just want to see the reaction, right?
Yeah.
like let's say hypothetically, 2 hours from now, Sony announces Spider-Man coming to Xbox. Can you imagine the reaction online?
It would be just chaos.
It would be nuclear. It'd be crazy. I'd be there for it. Be so entertaining. But like the whole topic itself, it causes toxicity. You put Spider-Man in your thumbnail and like moth to a flame, they show up in your chat, right? The mention of Spider-Man going to Xbox causes some insecurities in some fanboys. It's crystal clear. You can look at your chat, right? There's something specific about Spider-Man that sends people over the edge. Maybe they've had the profile picture for Spider-Man for too long. I don't know. But we see this. Now, what do I take from that tweet? I actually didn't really think anything. I just thought they were having fun. But that doesn't mean I don't think it's coming. If you go back, close to 10 years ago, we were told that PC would never get, PlayStation games. And then it was, okay, well, they will, but 3 years later, then 2 years later, then 1 year later. Then we were told, actually, it's only going to be live service games day and date. And, Lego Horizon Adventures. As far as I know, that isn't a live service game, but it launched on the Switch the same day as PlayStation and PC. Right? Nobody batted an eye. Nobody was doing this doom and gloom. It's the end of PlayStation because they go on multiplat. Even journalists, by the way, they weren't going out of their way talking about it as a multi-platform title. Not at all. Right? Bit strange. And here we are with Helldivers. And people are saying, oh, it's because it's a live service game. And like I said last week, Boom, I think you might be able to remember this, that would be a reasonable argument if it launched the same day as other platforms. Because if you're launching a live service game, you want the maximum amount of people playing that game day one, talking about it, buying microtransactions, battle passes, however they do that situation, right? But putting a live service game on a different platform a year after it came out, that isn't a good reason, right? Them expanding, this could be Sony testing the market. And think about it like this. Is a video game such as Helldivers 2 a game where you run around planets, alien planets, shooting aliens and robots, going to sell well on an Xbox? I kind of think so. We've been fighting Locust and the Covenant for 25 years, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think Xbox gamers like fighting aliens and robots. So like I could see them testing the market, and look for the the PlayStation fanboys in chat that are clearly disturbed. Who cares if PlayStation comes over? Really think about it. Like PlayStation, Spider-Man came out in 2018. It's been sitting on a server, just doing its own thing. Like, if you don't own a PlayStation right now and you want to play Spider-Man, you aren't going to buy a PlayStation to play that game. I've said this, like I said the same about Sea of Thieves before all the multi-platform stuff. All these games have a maximum ceiling on each platform of how many copies they can sell, how many units they can sell of each console for that game, right? All games have this. And I think the only game that really doesn't is Grand Theft Auto, but I could talk about that for an hour, which we won't today.
Red Dead Redemption. That's another one, another Rockstar game that is going to sell to millions and millions of people.
Yeah, basically. But like these games sitting on these servers, it's wasted money, wasted potential. Why not just make a crap ton of money putting this quote unquote old game on other platforms, right? Nobody buying a Switch 2 right now was thinking, you know what? I'm thinking about buying a PlayStation 5 to play Spider-Man in 2025, and then an hour from then they hear that it's coming to their favorite platform. Right, that's not going to happen, right? Right, these people, if they wanted to buy the game for that platform, they would have had it already. Especially considering it came out in 2018, right? I've said the same about Gears, right? Gears of War came out in 2006, right? If you want to play that game, you probably would have by now on that platform. Then they came out with the remake in 2015, Gears Ultimate Edition, which is what Reloaded is, right? If you want to play that, you probably could have played it by now, be it on PC, cloud, whatever, right? If you are locked into the PlayStation ecosystem and you just refuse to play on any other console, right? This is Microsoft getting your money, right? And it's hurting no one. I think, we see all these layoffs across the industry, and, Embracer laid off thousands of people, absolutely thousands of people. By the way, the media didn't cry about that the way they did with Microsoft. Sony laid off a lot of people, and like if you just look at the industry as a whole, there's a problem, right? There's so much money being spent on these video games that can you really blame these companies want to put their older titles on other platforms? It's free money, right? And you'll have people in chat that will say like, these games don't sell on Xbox. You have to be out of your mind if you think an open world Spider-Man game wouldn't sell it on an Xbox, considering we haven't had an open world Spider-Man game on an Xbox since the Amazing Spider-Man game, which absolutely tanked and it was filled with bugs.
It was terrible. It was awful. I actually still own the physical copy.
Yeah, and if I remember correctly, I think that game on Xbox One was actually delisted after 3 months. Right? It was delisted fairly quickly.
It was quick. It was super quick. Yeah, man. Yeah.
And it's actually one of the rarest Xbox One games. But like it would sell gangbusters. It really would. And like I think, like Crispy was saying, and I've said this before, like a lot of people think that Sony owns Spider-Man. That's just not the case, right? It's just the game rights at the moment, right? And like I'm saying right now, people are like crying in chat basically about, this Ruham dude. I'll mention them by name. These people get all in the feelings by what I'm saying. Does anyone really care? Like, if these people are so built into these ecosystems, do you feel so hurt that these other games are going to other platforms. Because guess what? You know, when the whole multi-platform Xbox stuff was mentioned last year, everyone, including myself, was like, wow, that's weird. And you know what I did? I got on with my life, right? It's not a big deal to me. I just don't care, right? Life is more important. I'm enjoying gaming more than ever before. And so what? More people get to play a game. Nothing's been taken away from me, and I prefer Xbox. I think Xbox is the better ecosystem, better controller, better community. You know, I think Xbox as a whole is just a better platform, so I prefer it. And there's people that think the same about PlayStation. That's perfectly fine, right? Spider-Man came out in 2018. It's gathering dust. I can't imagine they are making many new console sales off a game that came out that long ago. If it comes out on Xbox, it'll do well. They could put it on Switch too. It'll do really well. It's already out on PC. It's fine. And I think it's fine. You know, is it weird that we have these games going to other platforms? Yeah, it's very weird. Of course it's weird. But at the same time, should we really care? We are gamers. We are the people who should be playing these games and enjoying them. But people want to act like these bean counters for these corporations because we should care that maybe they aren't selling as many consoles as we want them to. Like, we have to take a step back because the industry, and I've said this before, and I say this every week, I think the industry, the AAA industry anyway, is on its way to a game crash.
Yes,
right?
it's possible. Sure.
The budgets for these video games is absolutely absurd. You know, like The Witcher 4, it's going to be successful, but like The Witcher 4 is rumored to cost $400 million,
Yes.
meaning out of the gate, that game has to sell multiples of millions of copies, right? It can't have any issues, can't have any controversies at launch. It has to work well. It can't be buggy. It has to be pristine and be one of the best games, if not the best game, best-selling game, the day it comes out, right, that year. Will that happen? I do actually think that'll happen. But right, the AAA space, there's people locked into these platforms and they're just unwilling to think outside the box, right? They're unwilling to think that maybe it is a good idea for these games to go to the platforms. Maybe they'll make some extra scratch and maybe less people will need to be fired, right? But the AAA space, if you look at it, like, it's falling apart, right? You have all these games. It doesn't matter which platform you game on. People are being fired, games being cancelled, entire studios being shut down. Not just Microsoft, like Embracer, right? Embracer has more studios than Microsoft, Sony, and Ubisoft combined. And when they shut down studios, nobody batted an eye. When they were buying all these licenses, nobody batted an eye. When they bought the Lord of the Rings IP, nobody batted an IP. Sorry, nobody batted an eye. But like, they were firing thousands of people, right? Because they weren't making any money. Embracer had a horrendously bad setup for how they were putting out games. But like, we have to look at it like these companies, they obviously need to make money. If anyone is really crying that Spider-Man could potentially come to Xbox and Switch 2, they really need to reevaluate themselves, because who cares, really, right? I do not own a PlayStation 5 right now. I fully intend on getting one, but I don't plan on getting one specifically for Spider-Man. But if they put Spider-Man on Xbox, great. But if they don't, I mean, that's Sony missing out on money. And, you know, I think, you know, we've seen so much toxicity in the gaming space over this like multi-platform stuff over the past year. People have forgot that we just should really enjoy these games. You know, you have people that will talk all day, have 11-hour spaces on Twitter for some reason, because games going multi-platform is the end of the world, right? If people really act like that, I mean, I don't know what to say. If Spider-Man gets announced tomorrow for Xbox and Switch 2, obviously it won't tomorrow, but you know what I mean? Like, that's a good thing. And I think people have to get past it. You know, it's 2025, game budgets are ballooning more than ever. Just deal with it, move on. Can you imagine if, let's say, Nintendo just randomly put Mario Kart 8 on Xbox and PlayStation? Right?
It would be pandemonium.
It would, other than like causing a big stir in the industry, like, it would sell tens of millions of copies, making Nintendo even more money than they could possibly imagine, and everyone wins. And I keep seeing people in chat, by the way, talking about what's this Insomniac like, you know, what Insomniac tweet. Like, Insomniac posted a picture of Spider-Man.
You know what? Let me do this. Let me pause the footage, and the footage is over anyway. So let me remove that anyway. Let me put this in. Put us down here, and let me just pause this for a hot second. Oh, I'm out of here. Hold on just a second. Let me just pause it. And I'm going to do a screen share live on the air. It's crazy to me that and I'm sure there are people right now barking at the moon about Spider-Man coming to 2018, and they didn't even see the tweet, which is crazy. But it's fine. It's fine. Let me do a screen share, and I can show everybody in real time what the H I am talking about. So let me just blow this up for you. Get back to this main screen. Let me add it to the page. Just remove this. Bring this up. All right, folks. There's the tweet. This was yesterday, folks. Not making it up. Here it is for you to read for yourself. Hey, how are ya? Hashtag be greater. Hashtag Spider-Man PS5. Here's the thing, ladies and gentlemen. Why tweet about a game that's 7 years old? Out of complete nowhere. And on the heels, ladies and gentlemen, of Helldivers 2 being announced for Xbox, even though I was told that that could never happen, right? When it happened, the goalposts were moved. Oh, well, boom. It's you were right, but it's only going to happen with multiplayer games because, they want to make money. Like Jamie literally just said, Spider-Man is sitting on a server doing nothing. As a matter of fact, I don't even know if Spider-Man 2018 is even in PlayStation Plus, because it got taken out, and I don't know if they ever put it back in. This would make them a ton of money. And Sony is in the business of making money, not worrying about fanboys' feelings. Okay? And Insomniac Games, OPS, by the way, worked with Xbox and has worked with Xbox for years before they were bought up by Sony, right? Sunset Overdrive is a game that still exists. They understand Xbox hardware. They understand x86 architecture. To port it would not be that big of a deal. But guess what, ladies and gentlemen? Nixus has already ported the game to PC. Holy matrimony.
Bam.
It's already
bam, bam. No, seriously, bam. Think about that. Think about that for a second. What does all these stands say all the time? Oh, PC's Xbox. Oh, well, guess what? This might come to fruition at some point. Maybe that Days Gone thought process might happen because they were quick to port that to PC. And guess who is in the PC realm? Oh, it's Microsoft Xbox. How about them apples?